What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we'll be covering everyone's favorite clown pirate, Buggy, a mono blue leader whose ability allows us to swarm the board with powerful cross-guild characters. And despite his appearance, this deck is no laughing matter, as the new support from Starter Deck 25 has transformed him from a niche pick to a very competitive option. We will go over how to build around his ability, the strongest characters you can cheat out with his effect, and everything else you'll need to know to start dominating with the red-nosed leader of the Buggy Pirates. Now let's get started. Also, I'm trying to release a leader guide every week, so let me know in the comments below what leader do you want to see next. Buggy's a 5 life, 5k power leader with the following activate main ability. By resting 5 Dawn cards and trashing 1 card, you may play any cross-guild character from your hand. This means in theory you could play a 10 cost character on your 5 Dawn turn, but we're not going to choose to do this as we don't want to play them until our board is full. So instead, we'll be looking for one of our 7 or 8 cost characters who have on-play effects that allow us to bring out another cross-guild character at the same time. The second thing to note is this is not restricted by a once per turn effect, meaning at 10 Dawn you could use this to play out 2 10 cost characters at the same time. The theme of this leader is all about going wide and getting as many characters on the board as possible. The first reason could apply to any leader, and it's just the more characters you have, the more things you can do with your turn. But for this leader specifically, we want 4 5 cost or higher characters on the field, so we can drop down the 10 cost Buggy, return one of our opponent's characters to the bottom of their deck, and then that Buggy stays on the field. The second theme of this leader is all about control, where with 1 card in this deck, we can completely shut down aggressive and fast-paced decks such as Zoro or Bello Betty. This also helps us to stay healthy for later turns, where we then use the 10 cost Buggy to both develop our board and disrupt our opponents. The theme of this leader ties directly into our strategy, where the first goal is to go as wide as possible and use our leader ability to cheat out multiple cross-guild characters. And depending on the matchup, if our opponent relies on a lot of 3 and 4 cost character attacks, we want to bring down the 7 cost Buggy as early as possible to prevent those attacks and slow down the game so we can make it to our late game strategy. And speaking of that, our goal once we hit 9 Dawn is to bring out 1 10 cost Buggy per turn, both strengthening our board and bottom decking our opponent's strongest character. And finally, against leaders or colors with strong removal, we want to use Crocodile and Mihawk to protect our other cross-guild characters. And you might be wondering, why are players now using this leader when in OP09 and OP10 he was basically non-existent in the competitive scene? And there were 2 key reasons for that. The first is before the starter deck, the cross-guild type had 0 removal protection. Since our late game strategy is all about having 5 cost and higher characters on the board, it was just too easy for our opponent to disrupt that. The second problem was maintaining our hand size. None of our key targets for chaining up multiple characters had any draw effects, meaning if we activated our leader ability and played down 2 characters, we'd immediately be down 3 cards in our hand. Oh, and I also think the 7 cost Buggy promo was very difficult to find, so that also just wasn't helping. But now with the starter deck, we have better removal protection, we have better draw power, we have better blockers, and we have the 7 cost Buggy already included in the deck. Moving on to the core cards, as always I want to leave room for creativity, but this leader is a bit more straightforward as most players are using a combination of the following cards. But I will still cover a few other options and cross-guild characters you can include if you want to try them out. So first I will cover each card individually and then give you my recommended starting deck list. We start things off with the 1 cost Mr. 3, our cross-guild searcher that allows us to look at the top 4 cards of our deck and add 1 cross-guild card to our hand. We're using him to find the best cards that we can play beginning on our 4 or 5 Dawn turn. Now at 3 Dawn this deck can't do much, but players are choosing between one of 2 options. The first is this 3 cost 2k power blocker with the on-play effect to draw a card, and the second is the 3 cost event Sanji's Pilaf, which allows you to draw 2 cards. These cards are effectively doing the same thing, giving you more drawing power so you can find the key cards that you want to play on the following turn. You'll just choose between if you value more getting a blocker on the field and only drawing 1 card, or not establishing your board just yet, but drawing 2. Players will generally run 4 copies of each, but they are not running both, so it's one or the other. The 4 cost Alvida is one of the new drawing engines of the deck, as on play if your leader is Buggy, she allows you to draw 3 cards and discard 2. This makes her one of our best choices for our other cards that allow us to bring out another cross-guild character, since even after playing her, we'll add a card to our hand and filter through the best cards in our deck. And it doesn't stop there. She also has the effect, if you have 2 or more characters with a base cost of 5 or more, this character gains +1 cost. This effectively means as long as we have 2 other 5 costs on the field, she will also be considered a 5 cost. This is important for 2 reasons. The first is as long as we have 2 5 costs on the field, she will not be restricted by the 7 cost Buggy's effect that restricts 3 and 4 cost characters from attacking. This also means if we combine her or one of our other 4 cost cards that have the same effect alongside one of our 7 or 8 costs, in only 2 turns of activating our leader ability, we could technically have 4 5 cost characters on the field. And in games that this happens, we can bring out the 10 cost Buggy as early as turn 4. And speaking of Buggy, this 4 cost is another great option to pair with one of our 7 or 8 combos, as we can use him to cheat out a 6 cost character. Let me explain. Let's say it's your 5 Dawn turn and you have these 3 cards in your hand. You trash 1 card to activate your leader ability and then drop down the 8 cost Crocodile and Mihawk. On play, this card has you draw 2 and discard 1, once again increasing your hand size, and then drop down a 4 cost or lower cross-guild character. We will choose the 4 cost Buggy, playing him down and then using his activate main ability, trashing 1 card and then playing a 6 cost or lower cross-guild character from our hand, which will be this Dracul Mihawk, whose on-play effect to draw 2 and discard 1 will once again net us 1 card in our hand. So on our 5 Dawn turn, we've played down an 8 cost character that gives us removal protection, as well as a 6 cost 7k power blocker. So if you can do this type of combo, Buggy is your best choice, and if not, you're going to use Alvida to draw cards. Next up, we have another addition from the starter deck, a welcome 4 cost 2k counter blocker, Kappa-G. Now similar to Alvida, if you have 2 or more characters on the field with a cost of 5, he will become a 5 cost character, but he will also gain blocker. In addition, during your opponent's turn, he gains 5000 power, making him a 6k power blocker. Overall, this is a great card, not only a 2k counter, but there'll be many games where you'll gain value from playing him. In a very similar fashion, we have the 4 cost 2k counter Moji, who has the same effect. If you have 2 or more characters with a base cost of 5, he'll gain blocker and 1 cost. He also has a very useful on KO effect. If your leader is Buggy and you have 3 or less cards in your hand, draw 1 card. This can be especially useful in later turns, as while our hand situation has improved, it's still likely that we'll be low on cards as the final turns when we start chaining out multiple 10 cost Buggies. This 4 cost Charlotte Pudding is one of the best cards in blue, as on play, your opponent returns their entire hand into their deck and then draws 5 cards. And since we discard so many to activate our leader ability, there'll often be times where our board is stronger, but our opponent has a hand size advantage over us. So by playing this down, we can tip the scales in our favor, as we will now have a board advantage, but our hand size will be about the same. We then have the 5 cost 5k power Kappa-G, also is a 2k counter, but has the effect if you have Buggy or Moji in play, he cannot be KO'd by battle. This card is definitely less popular than the other 2k counters, but there can be some value, especially if you chain him out with a 7 cost Buggy, as he will then be unable to be KO'd by battle. The 6 cost 7k power Mihawk is both a blocker and a draw engine for this deck, as on play he allows you to draw 2 cards and discard 1. And if you can cheat him out on your 4 or 5 Dawn turn, this is a great defensive play, as it's very easy to block your opponent's 5 or 6k power swings each turn, but don't feel the need to keep him active to block. You can get aggressive with him and start swinging 7ks early on, and at 7k power, we should be able to keep him safe with a 2k counter. The 7 cost 8k power Buggy is a more situational card, but when you do use it, it has the ability to completely shut down certain leaders. To start, it cannot attack, but we're not using it for its offense. Its second ability reads, if your leader is Buggy, 3 and 4 cost characters cannot attack. And in addition to this, he has an on-play effect where we may play a 6 cost or lower cross-skilled character from our hand, which means we could play both him and the 6 cost Mihawk blocker on the same turn, once again swarming the board and getting it ready for our 10 cost Buggy, since this 7 cost character can count as one of the 5 cost characters for its effect. And against certain leaders where his ability provides no benefit, you can just use him as a card to trash. The 7 cost 7k power Crocodile is the second card we can use to chain out multiple cross-skilled characters, as on play he allows you to play cross-skilled characters with a cost of 5 or less from your hand. And some players will include this 5 cost Mr. 1, so you can bring out 2 7k power characters with this effect. But most of the time, you'll likely be choosing the 4 cost Alvida or Buggy just like before. I will say that the only reason we're including this card is for consistency purposes, as if we have both him and the 8 cost Crocodile in our hand, we always want to use the 8 cost Crocodile. It is better in every single way. But one nice thing about this card is it is a 1k counter, so if we had both in our hand and we didn't need to use them, we still could gain some benefit by discarding him. And speaking of, the 8 cost 7k power Crocodile and Mihawk is in my opinion the best new addition to this deck and what is really taking it to the next level. To start, it is the only one of our combo cards that allows us to preserve our hand size, as on play we will draw 2 and discard 1. Then we will play a cost 4 or lower cross-skilled card from our hand, but as we've mentioned before, we have 2 great options here, either Alvida or Buggy. But it's the second ability that makes this card crucial to any type of removal deck, either black, yellow, or blue, as it will completely protect all of our cross-skilled characters. Once per turn, if a cross-skilled characters you control would be removed by the field by your opponent's effect, you may trash 1 card instead. This is the best card we can have for our strategy, as our goal is to flood the board, and the best way our opponent will disrupt that is by sending our cards back to our hand or KOing them. And unlike some of the other low-cost removal protections we've seen in other colors, Crocodile and Mihawk is a cross-skilled card himself, meaning even if they try to remove him, we can use his ability to protect himself. So if our opponent wants to remove him, they're going to have to remove him twice on the same turn, as we'll negate the first. And playing against a leader that focuses on 3 and 4 cost characters, if you get this down alongside your Buggy, the game is as good as over. One other nice small thing is it's once per turn on either player's turn, so even if you attacked and triggered a life where your opponent tried to bottom deck one of your characters, it would still activate. And finally, we have the boss monster of this deck, the 10 cost 12k power Buggy. On play, place up to one of your opponent's characters at the bottom of their deck. Then, if you don't have 5 characters with a cost of 5 or more, place this card at the bottom of your deck. This is why we're swarming the board. We want 4 other 5 cost characters on the field, so we can drop him down for 5 Dawn, remove one of our opponent's characters, and then keep him on the board for a 12k swing next turn. While this wouldn't be an ideal situation, I do want to let you know that you can use your leader ability and this card to effectively work as a 5 cost Gum Gum Red Rock. And with this card and our leader ability, we can turn the tables on Blackbeard, as if he turns off our on plays, beginning at 5 Dawn, we can bring out this 10 cost 12k powered character, who will remain on the field even if our board is empty, as his on play effect didn't activate. This creates a lose-lose situation for the Blackbeard player, as the leader need to turn off our on plays and risk us dropping down this 10 cost character, or keep them on and allow us to chain up multiple characters and draw cards with our on play effects. There's also a 10 cost 12k power blocker Buggy, but I didn't include this in the core deck list as I really can't find a player that is using this card. He has a similar effect to our other Buggy, where on play we will need 5 5-cost characters on the field for him to remain. While having a 12k power blocker can be nice, with no other ability it doesn't make sense to play this over our other 10 cost Buggy. And we won't need a blocker if we just bottom deck their powerful card instead. but I still wanted to include it to give you a chance to look at it and see if you can find a way to make it work. Moving on to events, the 1 cost cross guild is an event searcher that allows us to look at the top 4 cards of our deck and add a cross guild card to our hand. And if you were going second on your 2 Dawn play, you could play both this and Mr. 3 to look for 2 cards, or use them to look for each other. Another card players are finding success with is the 2 cost Love Beam counter. For 2 Dawn, your leader or one of your characters gains 4,000 power for this battle, then draw 1 card if you have 3 or less in your hand. Similar to the 4 cost Moji, this card can be nice in later turns when our hand starts running low, but even without the +1 draw, this card can still be useful, as we'll often have a few free Dawn since we're only spending 5 to play any one of our characters. We talked about this card before, an option for your 3 Dawn play, and also a nice trigger that can net you 2 cards if taken from a life. The 4 cost Sables can be nice for slowing down your opponent, but its main value comes from when they have some sort of removal protection on the field that we want to remove first before dropping down our 10 cost Buggy. As an example, let's say we're at 9 Dawn and our opponent had an 8 cost Captain Kidd as well as the 3 cost Tashigi on the field. The Tashigi protects all of the green characters from removal, so first we would drop down this 4 cost event, send it back to the hand, and then drop down our 10 cost Buggy and bottom deck the Kidd. We then have the 7 cost Gravity Blade, which is great for opponents that have mid-range characters, as we can return 2 of their 6 cost or lower characters to the bottom of their deck. As always, this deck list isn't supposed to be your end goal, but rather a starting point for you to get familiar with this leader and make it into your own. As you play more games, you'll find the cards that fit your playstyle, the ones that you want to adjust, and other combos that you might want to try along the way. Other options include the 5 cost Moji and 2 cost Richie, who you can play at the same time with Moji's on-play effect. Another option is the 5 cost Alvida, who on KO, if your leader has the cross skill type, play up to 1 5 cost or lower character other than Alvida from your hand. The 6 cost Jozu is another nice option for some mid-game removal, since our only other removal card is the 10 cost Buggy. Moving on to the Dawn curve, this is a leader that wants to go first, and at 1 Dawn we'll play either Mr. 3 or a 1 cost Event Searcher. We will use this to improve our hand, and we're trying to add one of our 7 or 8 cost characters to play at our 5 Dawn turn, alongside one of our 4 or 5 cost characters to play with it. At 3 Dawn, we're looking to play one of these 2 options, whichever one your deck is running. We're looking to increase our hand size, as beginning on the next turn, we'll be discarding at least 1 card a turn to activate our leader ability. And if you didn't have either of these cards, you could play another 1 cost, or attach everything to your leader and swing an 8k attack. At 5 Dawn, we unlock our leader ability, and we can now use some powerful combos to chain out multiple cross-guild characters. Your best card in most cases is going to be the 8 cost Crocodile and Mihawk, who adds a card to your hand and provides removal protection, as well as allowing you to play a 4 cost character at the same time. Your best target for this is the 4 cost Alvida at 5k power, as well as netting you a card in your hand by allowing you to draw 3 and discard 2. With that being said, your absolute best play will be if you have both the 4 cost Buggy and 6 cost Mihawk in your hand, since you can use the Buggy to cheat out the Mihawk, bringing out both an 8 cost and a 6 cost on your 5 Dawn turn. And if you didn't have either one of those cards, you could just use one of your 4 cost 2k counters and bring that out. It might not be ideal, but your goal is to bring out 2 characters per turn so you can ready your board to bring out your 10 cost Buggy. If you didn't have Crocodile and Mihawk in your hand, or if your opponent used 3 and 4 characters and you want to restrict them as early as possible, you could also start with the 7 cost Buggy into 6 cost Mihawk. And since Buggy's on play effect allows you to play a 6 cost or lower, we don't have to use the 4 cost Buggy to cheat it out, we can just play it out directly. And if you didn't have the 6 cost Mihawk, your next best target is Alvida, followed by once again the 2 2k counters that you could use. Since he can't attack, if Buggy's effect wasn't going to help you and you didn't have the 8 cost Croc and Mihawk, you're going to want to use the 7 cost Crocodile. And the combos will all be the same. You're going to want to target the 4 cost Alvida on a standalone basis, use the Buggy into Mihawk if you can, and if not, just bring out one of your 4 cost 2k counters. I said a lot there, but your basic goal is to use one of these combos to bring out 2 characters and start to develop your board. Your 7 Dawn turn will look very similar. You're going to use your leader ability in one of these combos to bring out 2 more characters, but then you'll have 2 more Dawn to work with, which you can either spend on one of your 1 cost searchers or attach to your leader or character for a stronger attack. And while most of the time it won't be ideal, if your opponent had 2 6 cost or lower characters you really wanted to remove, you could drop down the 7 cost event. Moving on to 9 Dawn, as long as you have 3 cross-guild characters on the field, we can actually cheat out the 10 cost Buggy on this turn. Let me explain. Let's say you had these 3 characters on the field and 9 Dawn to work with. You will first spend 4 Dawn and drop one of your 4 cost characters that becomes a 5 cost character as long as you have 2 or more 5 costs already on the field. And now you have 4 5 cost characters on the field, meaning you can spend your 5 remaining Dawn, activate your leader ability, and drop down the 10 cost Buggy to both develop them on the board and send back one of your opponent's characters to the bottom of their deck. If you didn't already have 3 characters on the field, you would continue your strategy, using a 7 or 8 cost Crocodile to bring out 2 characters, and your remaining Dawn to either activate events or attach to your leader and characters for a more powerful swing. And if you were running the 2 cost event counter, you could leave up 2 Dawn to activate this to protect your characters and potentially draw a card. At 10 Dawn, your strategy is very similar to 9 Dawn. Basically, if you already have 4 characters on the field, you would rest 5 Dawn, activate your leader ability, and bring out another 10 cost Buggy. The benefit now is you can activate your leader ability twice if you wanted to, meaning even if you only had 2 characters on the field, you could activate it once, bring out a crocodile and a 4 cost, and then activate it again to bring out the buggy and have it stay on the field. And there will be times where this is useful, but most of the time I think you'll be using your leader ability once per turn and using your remaining Dawn for big swings with the characters already on the field. While going second isn't ideal, we can still cheat out some of our cross-skilled characters in earlier turns. To start, we can play 2 of our 1-cost searchers, and the main cards we'll be looking for are the 4-cost buggy and 6-cost Mihawk. This is because on the following turn, our goal is to play out the 4-cost buggy, activate its effect, and then bring out the 7k power 6-cost blocker Mihawk on that turn. And if we didn't have both of these cards, our best option is the 4-cost Alvida. At 6 Dawn, we'll unlock our leader ability, and we'll be aiming to play out a combo with the 8-cost Croc and Mihawk, 7-cost Crocodile, or 7-cost Buggy. And we'll have 1 Dawn left over to either attach to our leader or use a 1-cost Searcher. At 8 Dawn, we won't be able to bring out the 10-cost Buggy just yet, so we will continue our strategy and bring out multiple characters with our leader ability. We can then use the 3 remaining Dawn for either events, searchers, or to buff our leaders and characters for a stronger attack. And finally, at 10 Dawn, our goal once again is to bring out the 10-cost Buggy with our leader ability. We can then use the remaining Dawn to buff up our existing characters, play a 4-cost blocker, activate events or searchers, or use our leader ability twice in the event we wanted to fill the board again if we only had 1 to 2 cross-skilled characters in play. This leader's first strength is our board development, as it almost feels like you were playing a purple leader in the sense that we are getting out powerful cards before our opponent has a chance to do the same. The second is our mid-game control, as with the 7-cost Buggy, we can prevent our opponent's 3 and 4-cost characters from attacking. And once we make it to the late game, we have excellent board control with our 10-cost Buggy coming out as a 12k power character, but also bottom decking one of our opponent's cards. And finally, we have great matchups into removal decks, as the 8-cost Croc and Mihawk gives us excellent removal protection. By simply discarding a card, we can negate one of our characters leaving the field. But all leaders have their weaknesses, and the first with Buggy is that going second has a strong impact on our winning percentages. You will find sometimes that even against the same leader, it will feel like 2 different games if you go first versus going second, just because going first is so much better for our overall strategy. Our second weakness is against the color green in general, as we don't really have any defense for cards that will rest or freeze our characters. And by resting our cards, they can also target them with an attack, making it harder for us to fill our board and delay us bringing out the 10-cost Buggy. While this has improved, our leader ability still requires us to trash 1 card to activate it, so the longer the game goes on, the more our hand is going to shrink. Our first game today is against the most popular leader, Blue Purple Luffy, and we will choose to go first as that's something we always want to do if we can. To start, we have no searchers and 2 Sanji's Puddings, so overall not a great hand, so I'll choose to mulligan. And we're looking for our standard core cards that we want to combo out with, but another card we want to keep an eye out for this leader is the 4-cost Charlotte Pudding, which we do end up starting the game with, which is fantastic for us since we can't really search for her. This is because starting on their 8 Dawn turn, our opponent will be drawing 2 cards per turn when they activate their leader ability. And since we discard 1 card per turn to activate our own leader ability, their hand size can quickly become much larger than ours. To start the game off, I play Mr. 3, looking for one of our combo cards, and while I don't find a 7 or 8 cost, I do find the 6-cost Mihawk, which I add to our hand. And as always, our opponent does nothing, since he doesn't run any searchers, as his leader ability is effectively a searcher once he gets to later Dawn turns. We then draw the 8-cost Croc and Mihawk for turn, playing the rest of our Dawn to activate a 3-cost event to draw 2 cards and end our turn. And since we drew the 4-cost Alvida, we know that next turn we can use the 8-cost Croc and Mihawk into Alvida for a great combo. For their 4 Dawn turn, our opponent drops down the 3-cost Zorojuro, who when attacking will ramp him 1 Dawn, and then attaches 1 to leader and swings 7k, which we take. We then start our 5 Dawn turn, and we're ready to activate our combo. A question that will come up is, what card should you discard when activating your leader ability? And what you should be thinking about is what card in your hand is providing the least amount of value either as counter or to play on following turns. So take a look at my hand and think about what card you would discard, and feel free to pause if you want some more time to think. For me, the 2 cards I was thinking about was the 7-cost Crocodile and 7-cost Event. The reason for Crocodile is I already have 2 8-cost Croc and Mihawks in my hand, which I'll always want to play over the 7-cost, meaning it's not adding that much value. And for the 7-cost Event, this bottom decks 2 6-cost or lower characters, but this deck is all about high-powered, high-cost characters, so it's not going to add that much value either. So I decide on the 7-cost Croc before playing down the 8-cost Croc and Mihawk, drawing 2 cards, discarding 1 Alvida, playing the other Alvida, drawing 3 more cards, and then discarding another 2. We then end our turn, and our opponent swings 5k with their own Zorojuro, which we'll discard out with another 1k counter. I was debating between either Pudding or Alvida, as I like both of these cards, but Pudding could just be too useful later on, so I decided to discard Alvida. And the reason I'm countering this, I expect the leader to swing 7k as well, and without any 2k counters in my hand, I don't want to go down to 2 life this early. And our opponent actually swings 8,000 power, which we will take, adding a 2k counter to our hand, before dropping down the 4-cost Mr. 2 and ramping an additional Dawn. Something important to track against Blue Purple Luffy, especially when they're going second, is that if they ramp 2 Dawn by their 6 Dawn turn, their next turn will begin with 8 Dawn, meaning they now have access to their leader ability, which means as early as next turn, they can start bringing out 2 9-cost characters. To start our 7 Dawn turn, I begin with our 1-cost Searcher to see if I can find the 4-cost Buggy, which I do. This is great, as we now have the 8-cost Croc and Mihawk, 4-cost Buggy, and 6-cost Mihawk in our hand to bring out them all with that combo. But to start things off, I swing 5k at the rest of Zorojuro, which gets the KO, as it makes sense, they don't really need him around anymore, he's already done his job and ramped him ahead. I then attach 1 Dawn to Alvida, swinging 6k for the first threat on life, which does take the hit. I follow that up with a 7k swing from Croc and Mihawk, which he uses a 2k Usohachi to counter out of. And with 5 remaining Dawn, I trash 1 card, activate our leader ability, play down the 8 cost Croc and Mihawk, draw 2 cards, discard 1 card, play out the 4 cost Buggy, discard another card, and then bring out the 6 cost Mihawk. While we were unable to stop them from ramping ahead, we did do our job with 4 characters on the field, and as long as 3 of them remain for next turn, we can start comboing out the 10 cost Buggy. He adds the 5 cost Nami blocker to his hand with his leader ability, before swinging 7k with his Mr. 2. And he swings at life. I think he might have been trying to bait some counter out of my hand, but I'm going to take that hit for now and go down to 2 life. He then combos the 9 cost Sanji with the 9 cost Luffy, who allows you to return 1 Dawn, draw 1 card, and then he gains Rush for the turn. He then swings 10k at the rested Alvida, and I could block with Mihawk and use 2 2k counters, but I decided to just let it go. He then leaves 1 Dawn up and swings 6k with Leader, which I block with Mihawk. I then start my 9 Dawn turn, but before I play anything, I use Mr. 3 to swing a strong 2k swing at his 1k Mr. 2, which gets the knockout. I then look at his hand, and while with 8 cards in it, I would love to play the 4 cost Charlotte Pudding. If I do so, I won't be able to keep the 10 cost Buggy on the field since I won't have all 5 cost or higher cross-skilled characters on the board. So my game plan instead will be to drop down one of these 4 cost blockers and then activate leader ability to drop down the 10 cost Buggy and bottom deck one of his characters. But of course I want to keep my opponent on his toes, so before I spend any Dawn, I'm going to swing with all of my active characters. I start with a 7k attack from Croc and Mihawk, which he counters with a 2k. I then swing another 7k, which takes the life and brings it down to 1. I then swing another 7k, which he counters out of with a 1 cost event. I then spend 4 Dawn to bring out the 4 cost blocker, before activating my leader ability and bringing out the 10 cost Buggy to bottom deck their 9 cost Luffy, and then end my turn. They start things off with their leader ability, adding Gum Gum Giant to their hand before placing the rest of the cards at the top of their deck. They then swing 9k at our rested Croc, and I decide to use our active blocker to stop the attack. He then drops down another Sanji, which brings out another Luffy, returning 1 Dawn, drawing a card, and gaining Rush. He then swings 10k at our rested 7k power Croc and Mihawk. While in most scenarios I would just let him go here, I have a game plan for next turn which requires 4 cross-skilled characters to be on the field, so I actually counter with 2 2ks. He then swings 6k with leader, but once again I need all the cards in my hand, so we take the hit and go down to 1 life before starting our 10 Dawn turn. And with 9 cards in our opponent's hand, we finally drop down the card that's been in our hand since the beginning of the game, the 4 cost Charlotte Pudding. With 4 Dawn, we've removed 4 cards from their hand, and we have an opening to go for game. I start things off with an 8k swing from Mihawk, which is successful and takes the first life. I then swing another 8k, and he uses the 0 cost event and discards a card to counter out. I then attach another Dawn to my second Croc and Mihawk and swing 8k, and he uses 2 2k counters to counter out. I then attach all remaining Dawn to my leader and swing yet another 8k swing, and he uses the 1 cost event to counter out. With no Dawn remaining and only 1 card in hand, our final 12k swing is enough to win the game. But as you can see, this leader has some very strong defensive capabilities, as even bringing his hand size down from 9 to 5, he still almost had enough counter to save the game. Thank you so much for watching. Hope this video has given you everything you need to know to start dominating your opponents with everyone's favorite clown pirate. I'll catch you next time.